The Cardinals have been on a downward path since the end of last season, with questionable decision making along the way, leading into Wednesday's dramatic loss, which might have been the final nail in the coffin for some fans. This is Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fans, I'm JD Haffern, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter at JD Sports Radio and the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find us on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe and comment. That way you can interact with us. Hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So I want to start this show off by saying I'm sorry. I'm sorry that as a fan of the Cardinals, as a fan of the game of baseball, that you are being subjected to one of the ugliest and most disappointing seasons in franchise history. You don't deserve this. I don't deserve this, but it is reality. And I don't blame any of you for deciding to not spend your money or spend your time watching the embarrassing display of baseball that has been forced upon you this year. I do want to thank you for still being a part of this show, for taking your time to still listen to me and to continue to support the Locked On Cardinals podcast. I appreciate it because you could have bailed a while ago. You really could have. Yet the numbers continue to grow and you continue to be supportive in everything that at least we're trying to accomplish together, right? After today's debacle, I was as angry as I have been all season. And it's been something that's been growing inside of me. And I think it's been growing inside a lot of Cardinals fans. When something you love and you care about, like this Cardinals franchise, continues down a disastrous path with no ends in sight, you can only grin and bear it for so long before something has to give, right? You can laugh about it for a little bit, but then things aren't quite as funny anymore. You get needled by other people who root for other franchises. And after a while, you're like, okay, it's not funny anymore. And this happened to me today. I was actually at the driving range today. Had a good morning workout. Knew it was going to be an early afternoon game. Was hitting golf balls while watching the game, actually. I had my phone set up. Had the Bally Sports app going. I was finishing up my bucket as the ninth inning began. Was walking to the car when Giovanni Gallegos did the one thing that you just can't do when you're a relief pitcher, and that's walk the leadoff hitter. And I even tweeted out, "Oh, poop." I mean, I didn't say poop in my head. I said a different word, and I used the poop emoji in the tweet. I said, "Oh, poop." Gio just walked the leadoff hitter with a GIF that said, "It's happening again." Fully expecting what was about to occur a couple of batters later when he served up a 2-out, 2-strike, 2-run home run to the Giants' Mike Yastrzemski to tie the game up at 5. Right then and there, I began to punch the passenger seat headrest like this. If you're watching on YouTube, I just started smashing it 4 or 5 times while sitting in the parking lot of the driving range. I boiled over. I've had enough. And even though I expected something horrible to happen, there was still a part of me that hoped that they would prove me wrong, that they would get out of it. They had a 5-3 lead, for God's sakes, with 1 strike to go. I was hoping that I would have egg on my face and that I'd get called out by fans for not believing in them. But instead, The fire inside of me that still had belief in this team and in this franchise that they could pull out of this extinguished right then and there. I cannot sit here and tell you that this team has any fight or any future ahead of them for this season because it's not something I believe that exists. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't believe in them anymore. In the extra frame, they rolled out Steven Matz, who ends up giving up 3 runs and was saddled with the loss. He's now 0-7 on the year. This season, the Cardinals have 11 lost wins now, which means that the starting pitcher had the lead at the time they faced their final batter. We're in a position to get a win, only to have the bullpen give up the lead. I wish I didn't feel this way about this team. I really do. But they have not given me one reason to trust or believe in the front office, the coaching staff, or the players. Nobody is free of blame here. All of them deserve it. I'm not going to point the finger at one guy or another. I'm not going to just say it's Ollie, it's Mo, it's Gallegos today, or DeYoung, or whoever makes a mistake at some point. You know, they all have at some point. It's all of them together. They continue to find ways to lose ball games in the most gut-wrenching ways. And I, for one, am just fed up with it. And I'm not talking to you right now as, a baseball observer or a, quote, expert or anything like that. Just because I have a job that covers a team doesn't mean I'm not a fan anymore. That's part of the reason why this whole Locked On Network thing works, is because the people who are doing these shows, like myself, are fans of these teams. We're not just reporters. We're fans. It hurts when our teams lose like this. And when you're just a writer and just a reporter for any team, it's part of your job to not take this stuff personally and to stay even keel about the team that you're covering. Like if you're at a game and you're in a press box, it is forbidden to show any emotion, good or bad, towards what happens on the field. Like play-by-play guys can get away with it, and that's fine. But reporters and stuff, no way. You'll get called out quick or even ejected for showing any sort of emotion. Excuse me. But I'm talking to you as a fan right now, as a fan of the St. Louis Cardinals, as a man who, since I was in my mom's womb, my mom was pregnant with me at a ball game at Busch Stadium and got hit by a foul ball. And she says that's why, I'm a baseball nut and have been my whole life. I've lived and died with this team since I was a kid. And I can honestly say that I've never been more discouraged or more disappointed in a St. Louis Cardinals baseball team than I am right now. I've said it before that the only time I remember this team playing this kind of uninspired baseball is the days leading up to Mike Matheny getting fired. 2018. I was there that night, saw them put forth little to no effort whatsoever against the Reds, and he got canned that night. They were doing exactly what you're seeing today. They don't play good defense. They don't move runners over, bad fundamentals, horrible pitching, bad bullpen, all of it combined. It was just a cluster. And he got canned. Something has to change. You cannot continue to look the way this team does and lose games the way this team does and expect your fan base to remain patient. How many times have they asked us to remain patient, to stay calm and believe any of the crap that John Mozeliak and Ollie Marmol are shoveling to us in press conferences or interviews? You just can't. You can't expect that out of us. What changes need to be made? I don't know. I don't know which one is going to spark the team. I don't know who should take over as manager if they did decide to fire Ollie. I still don't think they will. But this team and this organization has lost its way. It's been a gradual descent, but one that maybe we should have noticed last year. But I think a lot of us were blinded by the magical things that were going on. in 2022 with Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright and Paul Goldschmidt having that career year. They were doing so many cool things that we were not seeing the whole picture. At least I wasn't. I was all wrapped up in it too. And please understand, as I go through this segment, it brings me no joy to talk bad about this team, the players, the coaches. This isn't fun. Who's having fun right now watching this team or playing on this team or coaching this team? I certainly try to find the positives in everything I do in life. But right now, there are not many good things to say about what's happening with this St. Louis Cardinals organization. I liked what I saw out of Jordan Walker today. Jordan Montgomery looked really good today. Tommy Edman, the big hit. Outside of that, bleh. But last year, let me take you back to last year real quick. All-Star break, the team's 50-44. Nothing amazing, but respectable. In the month of July, the team goes 11-13, losing month. And it had many wondering if a dramatic trade at the deadline would end up benefiting this team and kind of kick them into gear as they got closer to the playoffs. They flirted with the idea of going after Juan Soto. Remember that? Didn't happen. Instead, they moved the beloved Harrison Bader to the Yankees for Jordan Montgomery, a move that did work, by the way. They also sent prospects to Pittsburgh for Jose Quintana, a move that also worked. Both were huge additions. And then, of course, you had Albert Pujols going on this tear in the second half where he was neck and neck with AL MVP Aaron Judge as the best hitter in all of baseball. Like, his numbers were disgusting. It was crazy what he was doing. The Cardinals end up going wild in August. They go 22-7 behind their two new starting pitchers and the rejuvenated Pujols. But in September, things start fading a little bit. They fall to 15-11 in the month and then 2-3 in October, right before the playoffs begin. In the final 15 games of the regular season, they're 6-9. They lose the final two games against Philly in the playoffs to finish the year at 6-11. You put that on top of what we've seen this year, and the Cardinals' record is 33-53 in their last 86 games. That's a .383 winning percentage. That's terrible. Then the offseason begins. You lose Albert and Yadi to retirement. Quintana, who was your game one starter in the playoffs, you let him walk. He leaves the free agency. Doesn't prove to be a bad move because he hasn't pitched this year. He's been hurt. Wainwright has that miserable September. So bad that he doesn't even pitch in the postseason for you. But you bring him back at $17.5 million. Some important issues needed to be resolved there. You also lose a lot in the coaching staff. Pitching coach Mike Maddox and hitting coach and everyone's favorite piñata last year, Jeff Albert, both decide they don't want to come back to this team. Remember, Maddox said, I'm just kind of done. I don't want to go through a season again, and immediately signs with the Rangers. Albert's with the Mets, who have a lot of issues as well, but he's their director of hitting, while Maddox is down with Texas and their rebuilt staff, which is thriving under him. They look great. Plus bench coach Skip Schumacher. He leaves. Gets hired by the Marlins to be their new manager. And how does the front office react to all of these new holes that have shown up on your team and in your coaching staff? By doing the very minimum. We're going to get into it next, and I've got fan reactions to get to about today's game as well. We'll do that here on Locked On Cardinals. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With great deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets that you want to get and start getting excited about the fun you're about to have when you get them. Forget planning months in advance. You don't have to do that. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. And they also have these exclusive flash deals on tickets for all your favorite sports. Obviously, baseball, a big deal, but football, basketball, concerts, hockey, how about comedy, theater, all of it. They've got your hookup. And the Gametime guarantee means that you're always going to get the best price. If you end up finding tickets in the same section and row for less than what you got at Gametime, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. They're going to take care of you. Tickets get sent directly to your phone. You don't have to fumble through your email trying to find them again or accidentally delete them. Get the tickets that you want and get them without the stress with Gametime. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The Cardinals will be on the road against the Mets beginning on Friday, and you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Cardinals. Everydayers, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every single day. We've talked a lot about the different things that the Cardinals decided not to do this offseason. After going through a really bad stretch there at the end of the season and then getting swept out of the playoffs, there was a lot that needed to be worked on. And you lost a lot of people to, a lot of leadership on this team with the coaches and the players. So you got a bunch of these holes to fill on the roster and the coaching staff, but the Cardinals decide that they'd rather promote within rather than bring in anyone else from the outside world. And I'm not saying that that was a terrible idea, but the guys you hired, I don't know how great it was, specifically Dusty Blake. Dusty Blake was a very big head scratcher to me. Only had 1 year of major league experience as a pitching strategist, whatever the hell that is, before getting the job. And then you had new hitting coach Turner Ward, who had a few stops as a hitting coach, Diamondbacks, Dodgers. He was with the Reds, but he was out of pro baseball for 2 years. He was coaching his son's travel ball team when the Cardinals rang him up and said, "Hey, want a job?" Lands in St. Louis as an assistant in 2021 and then gets promoted to be the full-time hitting coach this year. We know that experience is not the number one priority for the Cardinals front office when they're hiring people. You know, Ollie had never managed at the major league level until 2021 when they hired him. You know, he was a decent manager in A-ball, you know, and, you know, he won him over. But how much last year, here's a question a lot of people ask, how much last year did Ollie end up leaning on the veteran coaches like Maddox and Schumacher and Jeff Albert, and then guys like Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina in his rookie year of managing last season? Like, how much did he lean on them? You had the strange Matt Holliday hiring this offseason. Then he resigned as the bench coach before Joe McEwing came on board. That was weird. I mean, that's a lot of turnover and changes in a short period of time on your coaching staff. Now, every year, your roster is going to have some turnover. But the names that you lost, Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina, kind of a big deal. Then as far as on the field, President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak states in a press conference to many fans' delight, including myself, that, hey, thanks for coming out this past year. You came out in droves, 3.3 million through the gate, second only to the Dodgers. Payroll's going up. And we all get excited about that, right? I remember doing the first couple of shows after he made that announcement. And we talked about the possibilities of upgrades to the rotation, to the bullpen, at catcher, maybe even at shortstop. Had some good ones available. But it doesn't happen. In retrospect, either what Mozeliak said was either a bad choice of words or an outright lie. One of the two. Because they go out and they get Wilson Contreras, and then they do nothing after that. And Wilson Contreras, let's be honest, you keep hearing, oh, he was the best free agent catcher available. True, but he wasn't the best catcher available. I mean, Wilson Contreras was a guy the Cubs couldn't deal away at the deadline. Nobody would give up anything for him. So the Cubs just held on to him. And the Cardinals decided to go with him despite a better, younger catcher in the A. Sean Murphy being available via trade. Instead, Atlanta goes out and gets him. A team that didn't even actually need a new catcher. They trade Contreras' brother in that three-way deal with the A's and the Brewers because they want to upgrade the position because Sean Murphy is that good. And they go out and get it done. And guess what Sean Murphy's doing? Killing it. Leads all catchers in OPS and slugging, second in home runs, second in RBIs, third in batting average, second in OBP. He's tied for ninth in defensive WAR, has a .992 fielding percentage. He's throwing out 29% of runners and is in the 95th percentile of pitch framing, and his blocks above average are at +4. Wilson Contreras, offensively is in the dumps right now. We know that. He's hitting under 200. Contreras, to his credit, .992 fielding percentage. Pitch framing, though, 38th percentile, not very good. Blocks above average, -2, not very good. Now, we didn't think Contreras was that great as a defensive catcher. We knew that was the part of him that wasn't going to be great. Cardinals accepted that. Said, okay, but your offense is going to be so good. Nobody knew he was going to be this bad. Nobody did. But at the same time, most of us thought that Murphy made the most sense for this team. But Mo and the Cardinals went the easy route and just paid Contreras instead of trading any prospects to go get Sean Murphy. Then 6 weeks into the season, they say he's not going to catch anymore. And he's going to the outfield. And he's going to DH more instead. And then he was back at catcher after a few games off. Just an absolute circus of decision-making that still has never really been explained to us and left everyone who covers baseball just puzzled and confused. Like, who is this franchise? The Cardinals don't make weird choices like this. After losing 8 in a row, they remove him from his catching duties, remember? And then the Cardinals go on a little bit of a stretch of winning. At this point, Wilson Contreras was hitting .268 on the season. Since then, my dude is hitting .127 in 126 plate appearances. Just common sense says that whole mess might have a little something to do with his struggles mentally and physically on this team. I can't say that's a 100% accurate thing, but thinking about it, probably had something to do with his issues, doesn't it? You've got the Jordan Walker fiasco. If he makes the team, we will play him. And they did until his hitting streak ended. Then he was on the bench and then eventually shipped back to the minors to work on launch angles. A guy who was the #1 prospect in all of baseball by many outlets, including MLB Pipeline, all of a sudden needs to fix his swing? Was his swing different in the spring when you saw him? Or the last couple of years in your minor league system? Did something change in the first few weeks of the season where all of a sudden you decide that he needs to change a swing that has made him the #1 prospect? What did we do? We said, well, if you say so, okay, we'll trust you. But then the injuries start occurring to O'Neill, Carlson, and Nootbaar. So now you need him again because your other guys that you thought were going to be good aren't. Burleson, Yepes, Mercado have had little to no success with all of their opportunities. So you call Walker back up. Did his swing magically get fixed? Has anything changed? Does he look any different to anybody? Doesn't look any different to me. He's still hitting the ball on the ground, but he's still getting hits, which is the idea of offense. Zach Thompson, first-round pick. One of your top relievers last year doesn't allow a single run in his first 8 appearances this year, but gets demoted after allowing runs in 3 straight games and told he's going back to the minors and will become a starter where he had struggled doing for his first couple of years in the minors. And guess what's happening to him again? He's struggling as a starter. His ERA is over 8 in 7 games at Memphis, and it was over 10 until his last 2 starts. And he hasn't pitched more than 4 innings in any of his starts so far. Hopefully they haven't screwed him up permanently. Trace Barrera being on this roster for as long as he was seemed really, really weird, considering he was never used. They finally DFA him and bring up Luken Baker, who was crushing everything at Memphis. He led the league in home runs and RBIs. Every night he's doing something cool. hitting broken bat home runs and just leading his Memphis team to victories. They bring him up and they sit him on the bench most of the time. The guy has 3 starts at DH and just 14 at bats since getting called up on June 4th. That was 10 days ago. This on a team that is starving for offense. And he doesn't even get a chance to swing the bat. He's got 4 hits in those at-bats, by the way. What the hell did you bring him up for then? Just bring Mater back up for the 3rd time if this is what you're going to do with him. At least Mater can fill in at a bunch of different positions. We know Luke and Baker can't do that. He can only play first and DH. But it just seems like another boneheaded roster move to me. I just don't get it. Things have been out of whack since the end of last season, and perhaps today's gut-wrenching loss will start the wheels in motion on some serious changes moving forward. I don't know if it's going to happen. My heart says it's not. My heart says that they are going to stick with all of this. Then maybe they shuffle a few guys between the minors, but nothing major is going to come down. That's just my gut feeling about it. I don't think it's going to be enough. Even the national media is getting involved in this. So we're going to have more on that and some fan reactions to what's going on to following today's game. We'll do that next here on Locked On Cardinals. The Cardinals get a day off tomorrow before heading to New York to face the Mets, and you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Cardinals. After today's game, people were very, very upset, just like me, and they have every right to be, and you should be upset because this is ridiculous. CDawg95 says, it is unbelievably frustrating. I just wait every time we grab the lead to give it away. It never lasts. M1 says, they're breaking my heart. Even when it looks like we're going to win, somebody blows the game. Granted, we're all spoiled by them doing so good for so long. It's time to clean house and go back to it next year. Matt Mertz, enough is enough. Change must happen now. Ya boy, such an embarrassment. This team's a joke. The front office is a joke. The coaching staff is a joke. I'm starting to believe Marmol didn't do crap last year as a manager and Yachty was basically a player coach. We don't know. We don't know how much he leaned on those guys. But even the national media is starting to chime in after the loss today. And ESPN's Jeff Passan tweeted out, as mediocre as the Mets and Padres have been this season, no team comes close to the St. Louis Cardinals in terms of downright disappointment. They are a disaster. 5 straight losses, a 27-42 record, the worst in the National League, better than only Oakland and Kansas City. And the funny thing is that Oakland is getting better. Oakland has won 7 in a row. At least they're showing progress, where the Cardinals they continue to get worse. You know, in May, we saw that for a little bit. They started to play like what we're used to seeing a Cardinal baseball team play like. And it's gone. It's absolutely gone. The confidence is gone. The trust is gone. They look like the most unhappy group of people I've ever seen play a kid's game. The Royals, they still stink. They're 2-11 in their last 13. One of those wins, hey, guess what? Against the Cardinals. I mean, how awful is baseball in Missouri right now at the major league level? USA Today's Bob Nightingale. The Cardinals find new ways to lose. 1 strike away from a 5-3 victory turns into an 8-5, 10-inning loss to the Giants. This is the Cardinals' most disappointing season in decades. They're 27-42. When Nolan Arenado chose not to exercise his opt-out this winter, decided to stay in St. Louis, fully believing in the organization's future, he never imagined this. None of us did, Bob. None of us did. None of us thought it would be this bad. They get a day off tomorrow. Then they go to New York. They'll be there to face the very disappointing $345 million payroll known as the New York Mets this week. And the Mets, they got a lot of issues too. They're 31-36. Not quite as bad as the Cardinals, but a $345 million payroll, and that's your record. Oof. It's a good thing their owner is a billionaire because I imagine he's still upset, but maybe not quite as upset knowing that it's just money to him. But they've lost 9 of their last 10. The Cardinals, 27-42, have lost 8 of 10 in 5 straight. Something's got to give. Somebody's got to win these ball games this weekend, don't they? Once again, thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We'll keep going, guys. We're going to keep coming back day in, day out because we still love the team. We still love the franchise. We want to see them do good. And I'm going to do my best to stay as positive as I possibly can. But they got to give me something to talk about that is positive, right? They got to give you, as a fan, something to cheer for. The booing that was at the stadium today, as loud as I've ever heard it, and there wasn't a ton of fans there. I know that the amount of seats sold said it was like 38,000 or something like that. There was not 38,000 people in those seats. So people are starting to choose not to show up. It's happening. And I hope the Bill DeWitt Jr. and the front office are taking notice because they're not going to put up with this. They're not. Be sure to catch every pitch of the Cardinals hometown broadcast for Friday's game against the Mets with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Cardinals. Miles Michaelis is your scheduled starter. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like and subscribe on YouTube. I appreciate each and every one of you. You are the best fans in baseball. This isn't your fault. I'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.